Hello again, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani here on this Wednesday afternoon, and today we are being joined by the pride of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the woman who will be walking into UFC 250 on Saturday night, and she'll be staring down the GOAT, Amanda Nunes. They'll be fighting for the UFC Women's Featherweight title. It's the main event of UFC 250, available on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. She's the Phenom, the former Invicta FC Featherweight champion, the one and only Felicia Spencer. Felicia, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on again.
It's great to talk to you. So this is big. First UFC pay-per-view main event, title fight against Nunes, the consensus GOAT. Here we are 4 days before the fight. Can you describe the emotions, the feelings going through your body right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in my career, it's always been like big jumps and like huge moments that just keep happening. For me, even the Invicta title, having that opportunity it felt like this. Like it feels like I've been in this position before. I've seen myself on the billboard before, but obviously this is like doesn't get any higher than this because this is the pinnacle. Like there's no belt higher than the UFC belt. So it's kind of a familiar feeling, but I know the stakes are even bigger. But for me, I know that everything that goes into fight week and after fight week, like that's kind of like a separate thing in my mind because I know my number one focus is doing my job, which is beating Amanda Nunes on Saturday, which is exactly what I intend to do.
So it's interesting that you mentioned the Invicta days because I actually feel like the setup for this fight is going to benefit you in the sense that, yes, this is your first UFC pay-per-view main event, but no one's going to be there. There's not going to be that extra buzz and tension and hoopla surrounding a UFC pay-per-view main event. And you can just kind of go in there and do your thing. You have nothing to lose, right? I feel like in some cases, the fact that there are no fans helps fighters in these fights right now. And sometimes it hurts them as well. But in your case, I actually feel like it's going to help you. Am I crazy?
No, I definitely see where you're coming from. I was just telling someone else, like, we saw it perfectly probably in like the Gaethje Tony fight, where I think you mentioned that Tony probably thrives more on having the audience, and Gaethje probably benefited from not having it. And I think I'm probably more like the latter. The more it feels like a gym day, like a regular day, the more I'll be like in my own rhythm. When I'm feeling loose, then I'll have my best performances. Like my best performances have always been in the gym. So we do sessions, especially during the quarantine, and since everything was we've been preparing for this. I do sessions that are quiet, so it's like just hearing the leather, hearing the bodies hit different, hit the ground or hit each other, with no music, no one there. Gym is empty, just a coach talking. So I really feel like I'll appreciate the new environment, and I think I'll thrive in it.
Are you the kind of fighter who gets nervous before fights in the locker room moments before?
Well, there's always like a little roller coaster. I don't get crippling nervousness or anxiety or anything, but yeah, I mean, it's like it's always most anxiety about like the first moment of the fight, because after that first moment, then it's like, okay, then you can feel each other out and everything after like the first 5 seconds, and I'm like, okay. But I really walk in just focused on what I need to do, focus on my opponent, and try not to let anything else really sink in. So
On the flip side, this is your first time fighting in the UFC in Las Vegas. This is your first fight in Las Vegas, period, right?
I actually had my Tough Enough amateur
Ah,
title in Vegas. So I came here twice as an amateur to win that belt, which won me the Invicta contract. So it's again, it feels like very similar. Like
yeah.
I feel like I've been in circumstances that felt so big, even though in hindsight, like those moments compared to this are nothing. But at the time, with my experiences, that was a huge moment for me, coming to Vegas and fighting for a belt. With high stakes for me at the time. So yeah, everything every experience I've had, I feel like led me to this moment, and I'm ready to capitalize on it and take it.
Now, initially, this fight was supposed to happen May 9th in Brazil. Do you remember time frame wise, when you were first offered this fight? How long have you been actually preparing? We know that you fought in late February in Virginia. How soon after did you start preparing for May 9th?
Pretty much the next day.
Okay.
I mean, I did go back to the gym that week, the following week after my fight, and I had already been contacted by the UFC. And honestly, that whole fight week before I even fought, it was all about, hey, what if you fight Amanda after this? So it was always there, and I'm not sure if it was Amanda or someone threw out the date of Brazil being May 9th during that fight week. So it was always kind of like in my head, like, I'm probably gonna, my intention is to win this fight, and then that sounds like the date that they want to do. So I'm probably gonna fight again real soon. So that was, I think, 10 weeks after my previous fight. So I had like a couple weeks where I was training, but not like fully dived into camp. And then after that 2-week mark, I was right back into full camp, getting ready for Amanda. We had already signed the contracts and everything, and then it just got extended a little bit. But it all things got a little weird during the middle of it, but we found solutions to every obstacle. So
yeah, so that's what I was getting at. Once you found out that it wasn't happening May 9th and it would be extended, was that in addition to the fact that gyms were closing, the lockdown, quarantine, all that stuff, how challenging was it to prepare for the biggest fight of your life?
Well, like I said, we don't just we don't look at problems. We look at solutions. Like, we don't dwell on like things we can't control. The team around me is really good at, okay, well, what do I need to do? I need to have a body to train with. So I picked actually 2 training partners that we semi-quarantine. Like, we didn't live together, but we had a conversation like, hey, we're going to be responsible for ourselves outside and follow all the protocols, but we are going to come together and train every day for an hour and hold each other accountable. So luckily I was able to get into the gym as it was closed for everyone. I was able to get in and do my session, clean up, leave, shut the lights off and leave. So luckily I had a really supportive group of people around me. We were able to, like I said, everyone bent over backwards to make this happen. So when it got postponed, like I was always kind of like flexible with my mindset, like, hey, this might not happen, but I'm planning on it happening. My team was like, what? No, like we've been, we can make this happen. Everyone can make this happen. But I was a little bit understanding, but especially being in the champ's position, like, when she wanted a little bit more time for her reasons, then, there's more riding for her, losing a belt than me trying to get that opportunity. So I understood, but it was kind of a bummer at first to get it postponed. So I was worried about like overtraining for a very split second, but then immediately I'm like, why am I gonna stress about that? I just need to find a solution. So I'm just gonna train smart, listen to my body, recover as I need to. And honestly, the last 4 weeks I feel like made me so much better. So I'm kind of glad that it got extended.
When you talk about problems and solutions, I'm reminded of your other job as a math teacher, and we will get to that in a moment. But I mean, silver lining has to be you don't have to go to Brazil, right? You don't have to fight her on her home turf. You're now fighting in Vegas. This is probably the most ideal scenario would have been fighting in Florida, which is where you live, the state that you live in. But Vegas, way better than Brazil, right?
I was excited, to go to Brazil, but I'm sure it would have been a very different experience fight week, being there and fight night. But I don't really let crowds get to me or anything. So if they were booing me, like, I don't care. I've been booed before by a whole audience. Like, it's not a big deal.
How are you so nice, Felicia Spencer? And you're an MMA fighter who's 9-1. What pisses you off? What gets you mad?
What, I don't know what makes me mad.
You got to have a pet peeve, something that really gets under your skin.
I guess mostly like when I'm hungry and little things happen, then I'll get a little hangry. But like normal things that people would get upset about in life, but I think I'm pretty level-headed, and for the most part, like, I can take a step back from situation and be like, see the other side of every coin, So I don't know. Anything come to mind? What makes me mad?
Not following like insurance policy.
Right. Not following the rules.
Okay, and that's your husband, of course. It's a trick question, by the way. We don't want to get him in trouble. But no, it seems like you're very easygoing. And I remember.
Right. Oh, actually, I got one. When he drives up the wrong way of a parking lot, like the arrows go one way.
Yes.
And he goes the other way to back into the wrong spot. And that's got to drive you crazy too, right?
Wow. I mean, I don't know if I'd put that at the top of my list, but I get what you're saying. Yes, it can cause an accident.
Yeah.
One of the first times we spoke, we talked about the fact that you're also a math teacher, but I found out recently, courtesy of you, that you're no longer a math teacher. You were a virtual math teacher for grades 6 through 12. And dare I say, this might be the greatest time ever to be a virtual math teacher because everyone is doing school virtually. Why did you walk away from that job just a month ago?
Yeah, the timing of it was definitely weird, and virtual classes are booming, I'm sure.
Yes.
But ever since starting fighting and everything, I was always like, oh, when I make it to the UFC, I'll probably be able to quit my job and just focus on fighting. And then when I got to the UFC, I was like, I can make this work. Like a lot of people, but have a job and fight. You can't train 8 hours a day or anything. So, I was balancing it well. I felt good about what I was doing. When it came into the possibility of fighting for the title, I had that kind of feeling again, like, man, I really want to be able to just fully focus every part of my day on not just training, but like recovery and just not being like stressed about timing. And because I was living on a schedule, like every 15 minutes of my day was like, call this person, every 15 minutes had a plan, so it was exhausting at times, but I was, I'm always up for the challenge. And also just like that security of having a good, good income, benefits. That was a big thing. But I felt like it was a good time for me to just step away. I took a leave of absence first. It was planned around my May 9th fight, and I was going to contemplate going back or not after. But then when it got postponed, I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm just not going to be returning. Like, I'm going to, whatever happens, I'm going to pursue the opportunities that come. And I feel like having more time available to me, I might get new opportunities in this fight world, so I just felt like it was time, and I can always go back to teaching, but I can't come back to this later. So
Right. I've been having a lot of trouble with my son doing his virtual math classes. So perhaps, after everything goes well for you on Saturday, you can give me a few pointers on that, because it's really becoming a big strain
just
on
some
our lives.
virtual tutoring.
Yes, yes, it's becoming a big problem. Amanda obviously is incredible. She's on an amazing run. She's defeated every single person who has ever held the 135 or 145 title in the UFC, and she's done so for the most part emphatically. In your opinion, though, what's her greatest weakness?
Oh, she's fighting me. I feel like she, like you said, she's the GOAT for a reason. She's got amazing everything. She's very well rounded. But I feel like my style and just my pressure and just how I fight will just be too much over time. I always want a first round finish, but I don't expect. I feel like this is going to be a longer fight. I can see it being done before the 5 rounds, but if it needs to be a 5-round grinding, hard fight, then it'll happen, and I'm ready for it. And I feel like I can keep that pace throughout the whole 5 rounds and make her feel things that she hasn't felt. Because I'm kind of different. I feel like I'm a little bit awkward in some of my, my movements, but it's comfortable to me, and I think other people haven't seen a lot of it. Yeah, I just feel like I can I don't want to say I'm just going to outlast her. I feel like my skills are just going to find the holes in hers. I had a really good way to put that brewing in my head earlier, and I forgot about it.
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of people have said, hey, in her last fight against Jermaine Durandamy, once the fight got on the ground, she didn't look that great. And of course, Jermaine's strength isn't on the ground. And so they say,
Right.
what happens if it goes on the ground against Felicia, who's very good on the ground, who's a black belt? Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like she exposed herself in her last fight, that maybe the striking is great, but there are a few holes there on the ground?
I feel like it shows that she can have a bad night on the ground, but I never look at a low light performance, or like something negative about performance as the full story of her skill set, because I know that she's also had great nights on the ground, so, but it does show that there is a vulnerable time, and she might have a similar night, or I'm expecting the best version of Amanda to show up. So I don't anticipate. Hopefully I'll fully dominate, but I don't anticipate being fully dominant the whole fight, but I am anticipating winning every round and finding a way, to adjust. I feel like I can adapt. I feel like I can adapt better than most people can. And I'll be able to kind of work my way around to find a way to win every round. Like I said, looking at people bring up like Kat's fight and Jermaine's fight, and it's like some of those are a long time ago, and I take the low stuff with a grain of salt, and I just know that no one really shows the best of their skill set on fight night either. So I know there's a lot more to everyone's game than what we actually see.
You're 2-1 in the UFC, and your one loss was to Cris Cyborg in Edmonton of last year. And I've said time and again, I want to get your thoughts on this. I want to know if you agree. I've said that your most impressive performance was against Cris Cyborg because of the fact that you weren't intimidated. You walked her down. You kept on coming. Yes, you lost, but we're talking Cris Cyborg here, who some people lose that fight before the fight even starts. And you showed off your toughness, your chin, your durability, as you said, your cardio. And it just was so impressive to see someone who is so young like yourself, who hasn't had as many fights as her, clearly, just not be phased by who Cris Cyborg is. Am I crazy for saying something like that? Like, do you take that as an insult? Like your lone pro loss is your most impressive performance? Is that weird?
No, I think it kind of felt like the support and like all the all the love I got after that fight was kind of surprising, but it definitely made me feel like people appreciated the performance. And that's what I'm here to do. Win or lose, I want people to want to watch me fight. That's how we're going to build a division. That's how I'm going to get where I need to be. I definitely took a lot from that fight, and it was I almost surprised myself with how comfortable in the situation I felt. But I knew I would be fine. I knew I'd be mentally in it, and I don't really get like intimidated, or size doesn't really intimidate me, or the aura of invincibility. I know everyone's human that I'm standing in front of, so nothing phases me, I guess.
When GSP won the UFC title for the first time in 2006, were you watching MMA back then? Do you have any memories of that?
I did not watch. I was more, I think around like 2009 was more when I started to watch. I think actually my first fight that I watched was Anderson and Forrest Griffin. That was a fight, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I think
UFC
that was the
101.
first pay-per-view I watched with like my grappling friends, because I trained for a long time, but I didn't train MMA at that time. I just did jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, kickboxing, but kind of not, separately. That was the first time I went to friend's house, saw the event, and started to watch from there pretty much. So.
Once you found out about George, who at the time was champion again, he defeated Matt Serra to regain the title. Did you feel any sort of kinship towards him because he's from your hometown? And again,
Oh, yeah.
I know you're
sure.
living in Orlando now and proud of your roots there, but because he's such a famous guy from your hometown, did you feel a connection to him?
For sure. And like even just hearing him talk, like the accent, I'm like, man, I miss. And when I go visit, or talk to family, it's like, that's the accent. Yep, he's Quebecer.
Yeah.
So, he was definitely like my favorite, and still, a hometown hero or a national hero. He'll never be anything but that. For sure. I mean, he was definitely a favorite as I was able to watch him fight and grew into the sport.
Have you ever met him?
No.
Wow.
Not.
Well, we need
I
to
would
talk
love,
about
that would be cool. That would be really cool. It's very surreal to have people like a lot, especially during this lead up to this fight. People are like putting my name next to his name a lot, in the same sentence, and it's kind of crazy to to hear that. Like, I think I'm the first Canadian to fight for a title since him.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
first female, that kind of thing. So just hearing sentences like that, it's kind of crazy. So hopefully we'll be able to take the belt on a tour to Canada and stop by and take a picture with GSP.
And I know that for Amanda fighting at 145, there's not as much of a struggle on fight week cutting weight as she does when she fights at 135. For you, how tough is fight week in terms of the weight cut?
We really have it. I've done it a lot, so it's really down to just getting it done. Like it's not fun, but this is the best weight cut I've ever had for sure. I mean, honestly, the extra 4 weeks just made me even more prepared and ready for the weight cut. So I'm a couple pounds lighter than I've been in the past. So I mean, it's definitely not fun, but it's not anything that like kills me. It's really important for me to feel healthy, so even though the weight cut process isn't necessarily the most healthy idea, but like I think I do it in a really safe way, and it's nothing I stress about. It's just something I got to do.
All right. So in conclusion, I'm sure you've thought about this fight a lot and fighting her. and how your first title fight would all play out in the UFC, of course. Can you tell me, like, how's it going to play out? What do you foresee? What are you feeling right now?
I feel like we're gonna get into a rhythm. I'm just gonna start to find my way. I kind of, it reminds me again of like the Invicta fights where it was a tough fight, but then in the fourth round I was able to, outlast and find a finish in the fourth round. So I keep thinking in my head, like, this is going to be a fourth round finish for me. So, it's going to be into the championship round. It's going to be a tough fight, but I'm going to find it. And I'm going to take it when I find it.
Can't wait. Good luck to you, Felicia. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way this week in terms of the weight cut and weigh-ins and all that stuff. And of course, on Saturday night as well.
Thank you so much again for having me.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.